Dimitris Klousiaris, export consultant with the International Trade Center of the University of Georgia SBDC. Welcome to session 4 of ExportU. ExportU.com is a series of export mini courses developed by the International Trade Center of the University of Georgia SBDC in close cooperation with the U.S. Export Assistance Center in Atlanta under their Rural Export Initiative. In the previous sessions, your efforts were focused on selecting a few target markets. Before proceeding further in the marketing exercise, it is time to pause and go through a costing exercise to see whether you can be competitive in your chosen markets. In this session, we will consider the various cost factors. We will identify costs to get the product to the end user in the overseas market, and we will briefly discuss pricing. A more complete discussion will come later. First, develop costs to the port of import, which is all the expenses needed to move the product from your plant to the destination port. Then, develop the landed cost, which is the cost to the importer to enter the goods through customs at the port of unloading. Then, estimate the cost the distributor will incur in moving the goods to warehouse. Subsequently, we will look at some additional costs that you may incur in executing export operations. For example, product modifications, promotional expenses, financial costs, etc., that would impact the actual base cost of your product. Completing the exercise for each of your top 3 markets, you will need the services of a freight forwarder to provide you quotes on container, shipping, insurance, and port handling costs. You can think of a freight forwarder as a travel agent for your goods. A freight forwarder is a critical member of your export team who will arrange to ship your goods from warehouse to port and arrange the loading of your goods for air, truck, rail, or ocean passage. You will find them listed in the yellow pages under freight forwarders. However, exercise care in selecting freight forwarders. You want to work with an experienced forwarder who is familiar with your products and your overseas markets. For the freight forwarder to provide you the costs you will incur, you will need to provide them the following information: a complete description of your product. Also ask the freight forwarder to confirm the HS code for you. The type of packaging and number of pieces, for example the number of cartons, crates, boxes, etc. Gross and net weights, provided both in US and metric weights. Dimension of pieces, again provide both US and metric measurements. Port of export and port of import. Method of shipping. Note that if you ship by container, the freight forwarder will arrange delivery of container to your plant. Value of shipment. The freight forwarder will need that to quote insurance. Special instructions from the customer. We will not have any in our example, but the real ones probably will. Once you have provided the freight forwarder that information, he or she can provide you the information you need to compute your shipping cost. In creating an example, the exporter is a reseller of brake shoes, not a manufacturer. And for our purpose of determining shipping costs, we will assume for the moment that his US wholesale price is the same as the export price. He is selling 12,660 sets of brake pads packaged in 633 cartons to a 20-foot container. The total weight just barely meets the maximum weight capacity of a 20-footer at 37,980 pounds. With the information provided to the freight forwarder, we can now begin our cost calculations. As we go through the costing exercise, you will be introduced to the Incoterms for ocean shipment. Incoterms are standardized terms used to define the shipping responsibilities and costs for the shipper and the buyer. In our example, X Works or X Warehouse is a quote giving the price to the importer if the goods are picked up at the loading dock of the exporter. In this example, the cost is the self-cost